Griswold.
So, with me working on my Englewood comic, one thing that I wanted to do was talk a bit about aspects of the book and why I'm writing it, piece by piece, plus also go over my influences when it comes to this book, and the writers that really, I think of whenever I think who are the best street-level storytellers, who are the ones that I want to chase after in regards to quality of writing. So, with today's video, what I wanted to talk about was what on earth am I trying to accomplish with this book? Now, Englewood as a story is not something that came to me all at once. Like a lot of stories that I come up with, there's little things that I want to do, and then I, for better or worse, pick from a mental list all these little elements that I want to do, and then add them into something. So, I am a big fan of street level done well. I've always believed that street level comics should be able to be gritty, should be able to be, down to earth, should be able to hit you emotionally in certain places, but also provide high-hitting action simultaneously. And I think of a lot of my favorite influences, all of whom I'll talk about in a different video. But people like Garth Ennis and his Punisher run, or Brian Michael Bendis' Daredevil, or Frank Miller's Daredevil. And I'm doing this because I'm kind of picking them each off of a shelf. Bendis' Daredevil, Miller's Daredevil, J. Michael Straczynski's Amazing Spider-Man, who else? David Michelini's Amazing Spider-Man. Let's see here. Frank Miller's Wolverine. You can't tell Frank Miller's an influence of mine. Was another really good one. There's another Wolverine writer that I'm actually forgetting. Brain just... Was also a big-time G.I. Joe writer. Larry Hama. Larry Hama's Wolverine. It's another really good example of a really well-done street-level character. Frank Miller... Well, not so much Frank Miller's Batman, more so Chuck Dixon's Batman would be a definite influence of mine as well. So, I picked from a lot of these. Also, some of the writers who did Batman the Animated Series. You think of Marv Wolfman would probably be a really big one, especially his Deathstroke run. Christopher Priest didn't do Batman the Animated Series, but Priest's Black Panther is an influence of mine. But you get all of these elements, and you start, picking them together. It's like, what kind of a story did I want to tell? Well, I wanted to tell a street-level story. I wanted to tell one that was a little bit more modernized. Back in the day, martial arts was a lot more of a mystery than it is now. A lot of the myths surrounding martial arts have largely been debunked. Where, again, I mentioned this in the previous video, is like, where do you get kind of the modern-day martial artist, the man who has mastered several styles? Well, it's a mixed martial artist, A guy like John Jones or Daniel Cormier or Wanderlei Silva or Mauricio Hua, my favorite fighter of all time. Some of you might know him as Shogun. And a few others. Like, you look at those kind of guys. Like, that's your modern-day Bruce Wayne. That's your modern-day... That's your modern-day Matt Murdock. These guys who have learned all these other different styles of martial arts. So... That's how I use that. So it gives him a template to work off of. But, as time has gone on, I've realized that if I tell too grounded of a story, then it's not going to feel as comic bookish. It's going to feel too gritty. It's going to feel too grounded. People pick up comic books, they want to have fun stories. They want a little bit of ridiculousness, provided you can make it interesting and the characters within the storyline are interesting. So I thought to myself, it's like, well, he's gonna, to be this sort of a Batman-esque or Daredevil-esque vigilante, you're gonna have to know how to be stealthy. You're gonna have to know this sort of thing. I didn't want to give him a military background. That's very passé. Plus, I'm already writing another story where one of the characters is a stealth expert with a military background. It'd be kind of double dipping there for me, creatively speaking. So I said, well, I had another issue to do that I had, where the Cosa Nostra are going to be one of the bigger gangs that you deal with within the storyline, and they didn't have any competition. Not really. Not any major competition. Not even that was gunning for them and had the means to do so. So I thought of, one thing that Chicago does not have is a lot of Yakuza. Why not have the Yakuza try to get into Chicago's businesses? So that created that. I'm like, why not go a little bit more fantastical with it? Why not have them hire shinobi to assassinate people? So that gives me another element that I've always wanted to tell story-wise. Always wanted to do a ninja story. I've always wanted to try to do that sort of thing. Thought it would be interesting to try. I've always wanted to do assassins as well. So one of the gangs, they are literally run by a council of 7 assassins that have basically taken the gang over. And assassination for the mob has become one of their biggest money makers. So little things like that are basically how these stories have been put together for me. So that's one objective, is to, basically tell a martial arts story, a street level story, a ninja story, an assassin story, a gang story, a mafia story, a story about a person trying to seek redemption. Like, that's 7 elements right there, all in one book that, hopefully I'll be writing for years to come. Because one thing that has been a big objective of mine when it comes to this sort of thing is to write a comic that you, as the reader, can look forward to every single month. That is the ultimate goal, is to get this book into people's hands monthly. I want people to once a month be biting their nails because they cannot wait to read the next issue of Englewood. And I want this to be a story that I can tell for years on end. Both comics that I want to put out there, like, that's what I want to do. I want to have monthly series, because I am of the opinion that the comic book industry is not going to get rebuilt just through graphic novels. I think that what we're going to have to start seeing is companies that, are publishing monthly put forward books that people are going to be reading on a regular basis. Nothing against all the guys who have been doing graphic novels. I'm very excited for the ones that I get to read. I've backed a good chunk of them. I've got my copy of Jawbreakers is sitting right here. I've backed Cyberfrog, I've backed Brutus the Badass, Sovereign, and a couple other books that I'm forgetting. And did I back book? I think I backed Bigfoot Bill too. But regardless, I have a lot of respect for these folks, but I think that I'd really like to see us be able to do these monthly books, get them distributed to stores so that, these stores are selling on the regular. Or if nothing else, if we are facing the failure of the comic book shop, to at least do digital on a monthly basis. I think that would be really cool. So that's what my ultimate goal is. Monthly book, issue by issue, that you can read, you can pick up, that you can bring me a bunch of comics at a convention 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and I'll sign them all for you. Like, that would be the sort of thing that I would really, really love to do. Is because I think that that's going to be a good way to save things, is a strong, independent industry. The kicker, of course, is going to be, selling to shops. Because Diamond as a distributor is very hard to get into. It's a very, inclusive distributors. So either we got to come up with our own distribution net, or we've got to get shops to start ordering direct from folks. Either way will not be an easy thing to accomplish. So, needless to say, though, that is the first goal of Englewood, is to bring you guys a comic that you can read on a regular basis, that is going to have a continuing story for years upon years upon years. Because I think that that's the way forward for the industry. I think that we've got to get back to basics, and I think we just got to put out a consistent product. What you're going to get with Englewood is a good, fun, but surprisingly deep street-level story. If you're a big fan of the kind of story that gives you high-octane martial arts action, but can also tug on your heartstrings a bit, this is definitely going to be the book for you, to say the least. Next time we do one of these, I'm going to talk a bit more about some of my influences. Specifically, the character of Daredevil, and how I want to write a character that is an idealist in a world that makes it difficult to be an idealist in. Until next time, my name is Micah Curtis. Dave's Fault.